scriptures, Jonah 4, 1 through 3. But to Jonah this seemed very wrong, and he became angry. He prayed to the Lord, "Isn't this what I said, Lord, when I was still at home? This is what I tried to forestall by fleeing to Tarshish. I knew that you are a gracious and compassionate God, slow to anger and abounding in love, a God who relents from sending calamity. Now, Lord, take away my life, for it is better for me to die than to live." What a funny way for somebody to pray. He's praying in anger. How many of us have the bravery to pray in anger to God? I know a couple people that are willing to pray in anger. Most of us are somewhat hesitant to do that. I assume most of us are hesitant to do that. I am very hesitant to go with anger in my heart to God. And yet, anger is not a sin. It is the action of anger that can be sinful. So let's work on that. It was interesting to me this morning when we did our call to worship. And the words that we repeated are very heavy and very deep. It says, "We shall love the Lord our God with all our heart." That means everything that we have gets put aside when we come to God. How often does that truly happen? How often can we possibly put everything to the side and focus only on God? It takes some effort. And how long does it last? Typically for me, it's not very long, a few minutes, and I can stay focused and concentrated on God. And then I start to wander. This needs done, that needs done, or I just need a nap, or whatever it is. But life tends to fall in with all our soul. Do we understand our soul? Do you recognize your soul within you? Can you feel it? Can you feel the activity of it? Your soul is not your mind. Your soul is the core of you. The part of you that is reflective of God. That's your soul. And when we become united with Him, when we become one with Him, then we can understand, we can worship Him with our whole soul, with all our mind. Our soul affects our mind. We think that our mind affects our soul. Can we separate the two? Should we separate the two? Absolutely. Can we and should we? Yes. But how do we do that? Until we concentrate on God, no matter what attitude we're in, until we concentrate on Him, we cannot worship Him wholly, with mind and soul and heart, and with all our strength. A lot of us don't feel very strong a good share of the time. Those of us that have matured not so graciously or gracefully feel less strength, and yet that's not physical strength that we're speaking of. It's not mental strength that we're feeling. It's spiritual strength. At this age of maturity, we should have greater spiritual strength. We do. We just sometimes don't know how to exercise it, how to put it to work. It seems to be silent in the dark. And yet when it finally comes to light and we recognize God's Spirit uniting with us and ours, what can be accomplished? Through Him. We shall love our neighbor as ourselves. We have to love ourselves first before we can love our neighbor. If we do not love ourselves in this way, the same as we love our God, we cannot love other people. If we do not love ourselves, we have expectations of ourselves. We judge ourselves. And yet, if we love ourselves, that judgment does not cause great harm. It causes direction. Are we ready for direction? Here it says, we make these offerings as a pledge of our love and loyalty said these words, did we mean them? Remember when we were young, way back when, and we used to say Pledge of Allegiance to the flag? Way back when, we really meant it. We understood what that loyalty was. We understood what our country, or we thought we did, what our country was about. We had great intentions when we said, most every morning, the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. A lot of us have died for that Pledge of Allegiance. A lot of us have died for that flag. Are we willing to put ourselves in that same position for our actions in God? To God, we pledge allegiance to Him, to each other. As we're sitting here in this building, in this church, in this very special place, as we fellowship with each other, even here, as we worship together, are we willing to pledge ourselves to each other? Are we willing to understand what our needs and desires are as a congregation? Are we drawing together, or are we fractured? Are we in this limbo land where we really don't know where we're going? I am. Or do we have a specific purpose? And we do have that. We do have specific purposes. But I believe that we also oftentimes are in a place where we're not sure where we're going and what God's will is. Those are not scary moments. Those are awesome moments when we can come together and ask those questions. Where is God leading us? Where is He taking us? Has anybody heard the voice of God? Has anybody heard Him speak to them in a way that is comforting and direct? And once we find that person, it could only be one out of the whole congregation. Once we hear that person say, yes, I heard God, and this is the direction I believe He chooses for us to go, and here's the proof. Scriptural, prayerful, spiritual. Here's the proof. Can we all get on board with that? Generally, yes. But are we asking that question? Do we know where God is taking us today? Not only as an individual, but also collectively as a congregation. And to all our fellow human beings, whether they believe or not, whether they agree with us or not, whether they're totally against us or not, we are to love them as we love ourselves and love God. That doesn't mean we have to, I want to be really careful when I say here. Oftentimes we will not even know these people. They will not be a face that are really familiar to us. But oftentimes, if we really sit and listen for that still small voice, we will hear God speak to us about a person. He might mention a name, He might not. But quite often we will get this feeling about somebody that needs something. Whether it's prayer, a helping hand, a little food, a conversation, a card. They are in need. But it starts with prayer. Recognizing our own needs and wants and desires. Recognizing our own gifts and strengths and spirituality. That all needs to come together. Needs to. And until we talk to each other collectively, we cannot figure that out. We commit ourselves to live in love. Are we living in love every single day? I hope so. Even though we might hate, even though we might feel great anger, even though we might not feel peace, even though we've lost hope, even though our faith is struggling, we are to live in love. That seems almost impossible, and yet it's not. Because the greatest of all of these spiritual gifts is what? Love. If God is nothing else, He says He is what? Love. If you look out throughout the whole Old and New Testament, we see several dimensions of God. And yet they all point to love. Even in His most wrathful moments, we see love. We have to look for it. We have to find it. We have to choose to want to look for it and choose to want to find it. Are we willing to do that? At our lowest place, servant, to submit to somebody else's need. Quite often when I do weddings, I take out the word to honor and obey. Because generally when I say to the bride, will you obey? Wow. Most of the time they will not hardly say a word like this, but they speak loudly through their eyes and their body language. When we say to honor and obey does not mean that he is the boss and I have to do everything he says. That's not what it says. Put it in spiritual context. To honor him spiritually and to obey him spiritually. The man is to be the spiritual leader of the house. That's what it says here. And the woman is to be the nurturer. That's the honor and obey. To build him up into that position that you both glorify God. That's our responsibility, united together. And when we pray, we are to pray in the name of Christ, our servant and Lord. All of our prayers are to end with that. I pray in the name of your Son, Jesus Christ. I claim his victory. I wait for your answer. I anticipate your answer. Yes, no, wait, not today, yes today. Always. If we do not say in Jesus' name, if we do not recognize that through him, our prayers are brought directly to God, then we're just talking. We must accept Jesus Christ. So how does this fit in with Jonah and his attitude? Jonah went to the city. He did what he was supposed to do. He did it with a huge grudge. He did it out of anger. He did it out of frustration. He did not do it willingly. And yet God's will was accomplished. How do we know that? Because from the very top, the king, to the very lowest, the animals, came to know God. His will was accomplished through Jonah's rebellion. And even afterwards, as Jonah is sitting on the hillside waiting for nobody, he's praying to God, I want nobody to know you and I want you to destroy that city. Even after he had done what he was told to do, he still wanted that city destroyed. Not the city, the people. He met how many thousands of people as he walked through that city proclaiming God's message. Choose your God, choose God, not your God. Choose God or be destroyed. That was his message. 8 words. I didn't do it right, but that was the context of it. And they chose. And still he hated. And God blessed him. God blessed him with shelter. God showed him, look what I will bring to you. Look what I offer you. I planted a tree for you, and it grew, and it gave you comfort. But through your attitude, through your unwillingness, I destroyed the tree. I took it away. And now where are you? You are still angry with me. Why are you angry with me? Who gave you the right to be angry with me? Did you plant the tree? Did you create the worm? Did you do anything besides what I told you to do? No. So who are you to be angry? Who are we to be angry with our God when he does things that we do not wish for him to do? We do not desire him to do them. I think that's when we come to that reality, when we start to understand a little bit more about this God, his purpose for his Son, his willingness to live within us through his Spirit. When we come to understand, then we can understand what stewardship is. Stewardship is not only money. To be good stewards of what we have been given. What have we been given? Everything. Everything that we need, and even some of the things we desire, we have been given. Who gave them to us? God. What are we to do with them? Who was Adam? Adam was a farmer. Adam God was to take care of the world as it was created. Now, unfortunately, Adam failed. But we have that same responsibility to take care of every single thing that we have been given in a godly way. Can we do it 100%? Typically not. But when we become fully aware of what we've been given, our health, our wealth, everything that we have, every single blessing, whether we call it a good blessing or a bad blessing, is there a bad blessing? Something to really think about, isn't it? A bad blessing would be what? Something that benefits us even though we don't like it. Huh. That's a whole new thing. Wow. Last week, or week before, we had our committee fair. And the committee set up tables back there, and they gave you all the information you didn't know about the committees that function in the church. And they had sign-up sheets for us to sign up on. And people did sign up. There was some success there. But stewardship, like I said, is more than money. Stewardship is giving of our time, our gifts, our talents, our attitude. Stewardship is responding to God's call to serve. If we do not have good, active committees, the church dies. We need you to help serve, to show stewardship. In other words, to gauge your time, to gauge your abilities, to understand who we are called by God and what we can or cannot do, what we do well and what we do not so well, and what we are terrible at. I'm so thankful they don't ask me to play the piano or any musical instrument or even sing, because I am not tone deaf, but I am not talented either in that way. I'm very thankful when I'm asked to do things that I feel I'm good at. Those things that I do not feel confident in, I really do not like being asked to do those things. And yet, how do I grow? How do I know my true blessings? How do I know my true gifts if I do not exercise them? We each are called to serve. Right here it says, in the name of Christ our servant Lord, we are to be like him. Whatever way. Now I know that not all of us can function on a committee. I know that not all of us can have the ability to get out of the house and do that, or have the time. I know that. But what I'm trying to encourage us to do is to figure out, how can I serve God in a way that is pleasing to him and is beneficial to him. And if it's beneficial to him, it's beneficial to us. And if it's beneficial to us, it's beneficial to our community around us. So I'm asking us to be willing to serve. When you say the words, mean the words. When you sing the songs, mean the songs. When you pray the prayer, mean the prayer. Stand behind it. We're about to take communion. It's going to be awesome.